a new era on our hands, and that's why we have the star panel to tell us, first, what will be the fresh issues that the financial sector will face in the next couple of years. Let me actually start with perhaps the most powerful and the biggest voice in the financial sector, someone who manages 14 lakh crores on her own, and now with the merger of the subsidiaries will be managing 18 lakh crore, and I'm only counting one side of the balance sheet. If we count both sides, it is 37 lakh crore, well over the Indian budget. Mrs. Bhattacharya, Chairman of State Bank of India. Ma'am, first up, a new governor, what do you think will be the new issues that the financial sector will face?
Thank you, Lata. I think, as you rightly said, a number of macro issues are now sort of well settled. And there are challenges that are slightly different now ahead of us. I would like to name only two of them. One, because I come from the financial sector, I think now what really needs to take up our attention is the resolution. The resolution in very many ways, whether they be for projects that have been classified, whether they be for projects that are still incomplete, resolutions and ways of ensuring that there is much more efficiency in the entire system. Just now, while we were waiting, we were talking about, for instance, bills that have still to be paid, receivables that are not getting turned around in time. Now, these are the things, where we need to resolve, we need to find ways, we need to become more efficient so that the economy really gets going. But more than all of this, I think the real requirement today is employment generation. And I think the challenge today in front of the country as a whole and in front of all the players therein is how do we go about creating more employment.
Actually, on that, let me get the only economist amongst us, the rest of us, financial sector. Samiran Chakrabarty, the chief economist from Citi, is with us. Samiran, would you say that as we inaugurate a new governor, is the economy on the cusp? Would we be a good half a percentage point at least faster in the rate of growth in FY17 and in FY18? Are problems of slowdown behind us and issues of growth in front of us?
Thanks, Lata. Obviously, we are at a time when we are seeing some signs of growth recovery. What is a bit worrying is that, is it a very balanced kind of a growth, or is it a more growth which is focused towards consumption recovery, primarily coming out of a better monsoon and to some extent coming out of the pay commission recommendations? And how fast can we make it a more balanced one with having more focused on the investment side as well? And I think they are connected in a way, because part of the reason why investment is not growing is lack of demand. So once the consumption cycle starts, it probably creates its own virtuous cycle through which the investment demand will also pick up. The timelines are very tough on this. To get the investment cycle growing along with bank financing improving, it could take 3 to 5 years for the banking system health to improve to a level where bank credit goes up substantially. So in the interim, we have to depend a lot on non-banking sources of finance as well to support the investment recovery. But I am a firm believer that as long as the demand is there, finance is never really a challenge in India. So we will find ways to get this investment recovery going if the consumption side picks up.
Okay. I was tempted to go to Mr. Jayakumar, but I'll have to get one point thrashed out from Mrs. Bhattacharya. 3 to 5 years for banking sector to really start lending. You're giving us fairly positive numbers even for this year. Where would you put banks really chasing credit?
Well, chasing credit is something different from what I have indicated, but I don't think it will take as long as 5 years. 5 years is really a very long time. In fact, it's more time than one cycle lasts these days. So to that extent, I would say that it is probably, in my estimation, chasing credit will probably still be 2 to 3 years.
But you do expect credit growth in FY17 to be better than 16?
Surely, surely.
Okay. Well, Mr. Jayakumar, let me come to the issue of resolution of assets that Mrs. Bhattacharya touched on. She said probably recognition and classification is more or less behind us. What has to be classified as NPA is classified, but now resolution. What would your request be to the new governor? Would you say that some of the schemes of resolution have to be changed, or can we work with existing rules? How much better will resolution be in the next 12 months compared to the previous 12 months?
I would say there is a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but many of these things you have to try before you really come to a calibrated, program for most things that you do, whether it is SSS4 or whatever. But let's get a few transactions on the table and move forward with it. But I think a lot of onus on recovery is also with the government in terms of making sure the projects perform. The government itself performs its role in terms of sticking to commitments to paying the various people who have provided services, making sure that the enforcement processes improve in a legal sense. So a lot of things are clearly outside the role of the governor, in a manner of saying. So I'm hoping that what is within the control of the Reserve Bank of India and the various programs that have been brought forward are calibrated with experience, but we see some real fast progress with respect to DRT, the bankruptcy code, and various other items of resolution, which is clearly in the realm of the government.